Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com, your best source of Titans news and insight and analysis, brought to you by Edley's Barbecue, the best place to eat in and around Middle Tennessee. I will run you through all the locations where you should be dining. And I think you know most of them. Little slanted there. I don't understand it. Great to see you popping in. Hello to Audrey. Love you, Blue. Sean, Sergey, and Angel, and others. Good to see you heading into a weekend. Decent amount happened with the Titans this week. Relationship with Ascension St. Thomas coming to an end. Going to be a Vanderbilt Medical Center or Vanderbilt Health team going forward. Be interesting to see. I imagine, those patches on the practice uniform and the name on the practice facility, a big part of that relationship for all of these years. I would imagine Vanderbilt will be getting those benefits as part of their deal. And a lot of these sponsorships being decided on a year in advance of moving into the new stadium, because stadium's going to have some of that symbolism throughout it, certainly at the start. Robert Saleh finished building his staff here this week, and they officially announced what's going on. NFLPA loses a grievance to the NFL about these report cards, which is very weak. And I'd like to talk about that. And the Titans, obviously, in completing that staff, have some family ties that are cause for a little bit of discomfort, I think. Robert Saleh, Mike Borgonzi is Robert Saleh's boss, and Robert Saleh is now Dave Borgonzi's boss, the new linebackers coach, which is a little bit weird. I'm curious about how you guys feel about that. So we will take off from there. Good to see you. Combine, little over a week away. Most of us be getting to Indianapolis on Monday, the 23rd. I think Titans stuff will start Tuesday, the 24th. Might be spread over more than one day there. And obviously, we'll talk to a ton of prospects over the course of the week. As always, I plan on doing a lot of podcasting from there, maybe with a new feature or two. So let's start with this NFLPA thing. I did a video on it this morning. The grievance by the letter of the law, NFL wins. They don't like, owners obviously don't like being criticized, embarrassed, shamed into making changes. The thing is that they were shamed into making some changes. So the Cardinals, who used to charge their players for meals at their facility, got embarrassed out of doing that and into providing better food. The Chargers expanded their locker room. The Commanders increased their staff in strength and conditioning department. And those are just a few of the changes that have been made throughout the league. The NFL complained that the data was manipulated by the Players Association. Well, it's manipulated, to show them in an unfavorable light. That's what the arbitrator agreed with. Well, it wasn't manipulated in these cases. I mean, if it was manipulated in these cases, why did these teams make these changes? The PA has a really hard time winning against the league. I retweeted what Jeffrey Simmons said. Guys, tell the truth in this. It's very rare for the NFLPA to find a way to exert any power. And I thought it was a really healthy thing. They could have tinkered with it. Now it's shut down. The PA has to go back to work. PA's under new leadership, finding new leadership, always ineffective. Find something that works and can't continue on with it. But I think even the Titans, Titans didn't have great family room conditions, and it influenced what they're doing in the new stadium for players. And a lot of you seem to be kind of like, these pampered players and everything. Well, these are small factors in drawing free agents. If the word of mouth, money is number one, opportunity is number two, but word of mouth helps. And if a guy's saying, it's shitty here, the weight room's tiny, they don't have modern equipment, and the word of mouth on the other place is that it's great. They don't treat my wife and kids well on game day, as opposed to my wife and kids have a fantastic time on game day. That could be of influence. And so I think it's been a good thing for the PA, and should have been something that kept going. Now, the PA probably fumbled it in a way. David Jeremy is asking if they brought back Lori Locust. I reported a long, long time ago that Lori Locust wasn't back. Thanks for paying attention. Nepotism conversation is picking up some speed here. So nepotism, technically means you're getting hired unqualified. Dave Borgonzi is a qualified linebacker coach. He's a qualified linebacker coach, and he might be great. But at the times that the linebackers aren't great, the Titans have invited some questions about, was he really the best of the 8 guys? He invites sideways glances from colleagues as he gets to know them. I would Mike Borgonzi's a great guy, cool guy to relate with. I imagine his brother's the same, but still, given a choice between 2 guys who are equal, ideally your brother goes and works for another team. And he's tied to Eberflus. I don't know where Eberflus is wound up in this whole merry-go-round, but just lend yourself to so much criticism. And Bud Adams was an anti-nepotism guy. He would not let Jeff Fisher hire his son. The team would not let Greg Williams bring his son aboard when he was the defensive coordinator. There are 2 pairs of employees who got married, and Bud made one of the 2 in each couple leave the organization. So it meant a lot to him. I went back in what I wrote last night about this. I talked to Amy Adams Strunk early in her ownership tenure when she was still available and had reasonable conversations about reasonable matters. When Matt Pease, Dean Pease's son, was hired by Mike Vrabel in 2018 as part of the Dean Pease package. And she said she's not as staunch about it as her dad. She would judge it on a case-by-case basis. She recalled, Wade Phillips and Bum Phillips working out pretty well. But, here also Ahmed Saleh hired in the very lowest entry-level position, defensive quality control coach. That's Robert Saleh's cousin. There are a billion entry-level quality control coaches trying to get in the league. Lots of them with interesting stories, and guys who will turn into stuff. I mean, guys like Arthur Smith and Jonathan Gannon were quality control coaches here for the Titans. And maybe the kid's great, but the scenario I like better is if Saleh, helps him get in with a friend of his somewhere else, and Saleh, maybe takes on somebody else's friend. It's still nepotism, but at least you spread it out around the league and don't take him directly under your wing. Let's see what some of you guys are saying here about this. Nepotism largely runs the league and the world for that matter. Yeah. Nepotism, like many other isms, is human nature. Whenever you choose to correct that, it's usually always an uphill battle unless it's positively reinforced approach. I don't know what that approach is. Here's kind of where it goes. If he struggles, can you really fire your boss's brother? It makes problems you don't need to have. The appearance of impropriety can be just as bad as actual impropriety. That's Love You Blue. And that cuts to the heart of some of it here. It's not apples to apples, Jason says, but Bill Callahan is what happens when shit goes bad. You lose your head coach and line coach. Shit can get strained. And look, Bill Callahan is not an example of this because Bill Callahan was more, had a bigger resume than his son. I mean, Bill Callahan would have gotten hired by, could have gotten hired by any head coach coming in. He would have been top of the list offensive line candidate for any coach that got hired in the Brian Callahan cycle. And so it's not, I mean, certainly, you know, it falls under the same umbrella, but I think it's at a very different part of the umbrella where the person in less power is actually more qualified than the other. Happy Friday 13th. Dwayne points out, I did not realize that it was Friday the 13th. And happy Valentine's Day. Let me be the first. I'm surprised Chris Berman didn't say that after the Super Bowl, be the first to wish us a happy Valentine's Day. Can I say, as an aside, and those of you who are familiar with me know this, like why is Chris Berman post-game Super Bowl on ESPN? What will it take for them to put him in retirement? All season long, other people do post-game at ESPN, but he has to be the post-Super Bowl guy. Why? Why can't they be sick of him? Why is he an institution there? I cannot stand him. Did pretty well with the middle linebackers, inside linebackers that the Cowboys gave him, Michael says. I know some Cowboys fans are disappointed that he's leaving. Well, Cowboys defense is the only defense in the league that gave up over 30 points a game. I think they were third worst in yardage overall. The Micah Parsons trade, hurt them badly. He and Aaron Whitecotton worked together, the Titans' new defensive line coach, who was also there. So they've got familiarity. We don't know who the other 7 were for sure. We know that Robert Saleh's first choice probably would have been Mike Ruttenberg, who's in Atlanta, who he interviewed for defensive coordinator. But they weren't going to let him go for a parallel job, it seems like. Howie on Bud says, Bud Adams was a pioneer in this regard. His non-nepotistic nature led him in allowing more black and ethnic quarterbacks than any other team in a time of strong, divisive racism in society and AFL history. I don't know that nepotism, not being nepotistic, not hiring relatives of your coaches and the like, and hiring minorities go hand in hand. Bud has a clear record of giving minorities some big opportunities, particularly at quarterback, and things went well for him there. But I don't know that those two things are necessarily tied together. The Titans fans, David Jeremy says, that think they know coaching better than John Harbaugh crack me up. He's talking about Callahan and Wilson. I mean, Wilson, I don't know that anybody has a beef with Denard Wilson getting a defensive coordinator job with the Giants. Brian Callahan doesn't look like a great hire. I can understand why a Titans fan is unimpressed with Brian Callahan as a quarterback coach hire. Brian Callahan touched the robes of Matthew Stafford and Peyton Manning and Joe Burrow. And based on what he did here in Tennessee, it seems, like, didn't have a heck of a lot to do with their success based on what he did with that success in working with the Will Levis and Cam Ward. Do I think that the front office approach of separation of we draft and coaches developed is softened with a more experienced coaching staff? Well, I don't really get what you're saying, Ed, but the drafters don't do the developing. So there's always that split. I mean, the question is, how much influence does the coaching staff have in who you draft? And I think here you would expect the coaching staff to say, these are the kind of guys that we want, that we need to make our system work. And then for the scouts and the front office to provide players that fit and that can do, if they're maximized, can do what the coaching staff is looking for. That's the best kind of relationship you can have, right? Don't give me guys that can't do the things we're looking for from these positions. And I think Saleh or Borgonzi said at that opening press conference, get to work on the tapes, the positional tapes. And this is traditional that a new coaching staff would provide a look at what the Titans coaches want, and then factor that into how they're drafting. So you might give me a follow-up there on what you want. Cam Ward, Robert Tart says, I've not heard Cam Ward's comments about Dayball. Have I talked to him? I think Jim Wyatt, no, I haven't talked to Cam. Jim Wyatt talked to Cam, but I think it was about Saleh, not about Dayball. Could be mistaken, but I mean, it was standard stuff. What is he going to say? Who do I say are some of the most influential owners in league history? Mike says. Well, I mean, you go back in time, Paul Brown and the like. In modern history, people hate that. People hate that you would put Art Modell on that list, but he is very influential in TV. Jerry Jones, certainly in marketing. Pat Bowlen, in a lot of finance and things like that. Certainly, Robert Kraft has grown the league in a great deal, and in committee work. The Rooney family, the Mara family, very big, very big. Let's see. I really need to run over there and get my list, which I left off the printer, which is not a cool thing to do. What does a defensive quality control coach do? Quality control coaches do a lot of tedious work. One of the main things they do, so a scout team at practice is running the other opponent's offense. So let's say the Titans are playing the Steelers. The quality control coach for the defense would get the defensive cards ready. And so for the scout team defense to run the Steelers defense, he would have the cards that they hold up for that scout team defense to, on this play, run the Steelers defense. So the second and third string defenders would be looking at that card that he has drawn up to do what the Steelers would do on 1st and 10 on Wednesday. So they start on 1st and 10. The Titans would put out, 3 wides on 1st and 10. And in that huddle, in that moment, these guys would just be playing the Steelers roles, lining up like the Steelers are expected to line up, reading off that card in that moment and going and lining up and playing that play. So he would arrange those cards according to what research tells him or what he's told to do and draw up those physical cards. They may be on an iPad now, but he's holding up the iPad to show them what to do. That level of work is what a quality control coach does. What else do we have here? Ed said, I answered it. In the past with Callahan, there didn't seem to be a voice in the room to say it wasn't a developmental problem, but a player problem. Maybe this staff has more cachet. Well, I mean, I think they know where they are. And I don't know how it serves Callahan to say it's a player problem. He's got to work with what he's got. Saleh will have to work with what he's got after they have another season of free agent acquisitions, after they have another season of draft acquisitions, after they have another class of undrafted rookie acquisitions. I think Vrabel was, getting the message out there that, hey, this is not a very good roster that I've got here, obviously. But what once you've got that roster on the field, you can toy with the bottom of it, but there's only so much you can do after that. Let's retweet this so we can get the message out there that we're here and draw a little bigger of a crowd. It doesn't seem like my thing tweeted, which is kind of annoying. And I'm going to run over there and get these papers in a second. It does not seem like my thing tweeted, so I don't know what to do there. What do I do there? It says I'm live, but I don't know how to retweet it. This is the Paul Kuharsky podcast. If you're listening on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeart after the fact, I appreciate you subscribing, rating, reviewing, doing all of the things you can there. If you're watching on X, give me a like. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give a thumbs up. And same on Facebook, where you can watch these regularly. If you're a member of paulkuharsky.com, because these tend to move, I can send you a text. That's what I do for people who are here, and I'm happy to do that for you as well. If you sign up, so become a member of paulkuharsky.com. $7.50 a month is nothing. It's the price of a cup of coffee or a fancy cocktail. You get all my news and analysis. I really led the charge on this coaching staff, who was staying, who was going. All my news and analysis, great analytical stuff from Mike Herndon, film review from Drew Beatty, additional draft stuff from Braden Gall, Blake Bedingfield with game reviews, and he'll have some draft input coming up. A unique cast of characters, not going to find better anywhere else. If you want to be a true Titans insider, this is the way to go. So come join. I will put the link up in the comments here for you to be a part of things. And I hope you'll join us. I'm going to retweet right now so that people will come join us. Bang. We'll get back in here. What else are we going to talk about? Text did post today. Yeah, I know the time. What grade would I give the Titans' new staff on paper now that all the positions have been filled? It looks like a good staff, Gary. But I know, it's easy for the staff to look good at the beginning of things. The guys have to jive. They have to develop players. There's a lot that has to unfold for it to be more than paper. We can run through quickly what they have here. I mean, Saleh, obviously we've discussed. Gus Bradley is a good get as a non-play calling defensive coordinator and right-hand man for Saleh. And Saleh has been defensive coordinator on Gus Bradley's staff when Bradley was a head coach. Dayball is offensive coordinator. We've talked about. It's great to have Fossil back, and I know Fossil is thrilled to have Renee Stewart back as his assistant special teams coach. Ben Bloom, I knew was probably sticking around in some capacity, but it was unclear what. Senior defensive assistant. You know, sometimes these titles get dressed up. You want to keep the guy around. You're taking him off his position. Senior defensive assistant usually is a guy that gets some projects, does some looking ahead. He's not going to be as hands-on with players, which probably is, excuse me, disappointing to him. But still going to be a guy that's involved with the Titans coaching, and he's a good coach, Ben Bloom. Dave Borgonzi at linebackers, we've discussed. Carmen Brasillo, I think, a very good hire at offensive line who did really good work with the Raiders and with the Giants. Trevor Browder, offensive assistant, low-ranking guy, is a holdover. Dalton Hilliard is not the running back from the Saints. He's a defensive backs coach, the Nichols coach that we had talked about, which was a very popular subject. He just went from UConn to Colorado State and was only at Colorado State for a matter of months. Randy Jordan, holdover at running backs, and that is he's also the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship Coordinator. So he will be the guy who finds the interns and the coaches that the Titans bring in, sometimes for training camp, sometimes for the whole season as part of that Bill Walsh coaching fellowship program. Cade Knox is an offensive assistant and the game management guy. So he is the stretch and the Rob Reederer in terms of being in Robert Saleh's ear with timeout advice, with fourth down advice, with all of that. And I reported on him early. Now, Rob Dodona is the chief of staff. Stretch was both of those jobs. Under Callahan, there were two different guys. You didn't know his chief of staff. And I'm forgetting his name right now. Greg Lewis, wide receivers coach, very good. Marquand Manuel is the safeties coach. Tony Oden is a holdover as the cornerbacks coach, and he is also the defensive passing game coordinator. John Rudnicki is the offensive assistant. So he's the quality control guy opposite Ahmed Saleh, the defensive assistant. That's basically the quality control job. Travis Smith, who was the defensive run game coordinator last year, is a senior defensive assistant and a pass rush specialist. Renee Stewart, I mentioned, assistant special teams. Luke Stocker stays as tight ends, as we knew. Shea Tierney, quarterbacks coach, comes with Brian Dayball from the Giants. Aaron Whitecotton, defensive line, much written about, early hire. Isaac Williams, assistant offensive line coach for Carmen Brasillo. And I mentioned Rob Dodona as chief of staff. That is like a glorified administrative assistant job. So that's the guy. Everybody retweet so we get everybody in here. So I think I just hit Pirtle, your chief of staff and game manager question. Yeah, I wanted to talk about, so there was video out today. Will Levis put out some Instagram stuff of him throwing. Looked good. It seems like his shoulder is back. So many people are anxious to trade Will Levis. I don't really understand it. Who exactly do you want to be the Titans' backup? I mean, I could see Jimmy Garoppolo or Tyrod Taylor. Outside of that, the backup market is shit. Most teams have shit backups. I don't want a veteran guy who's washed up and not going to be able to move or any of that. Brandon Allen, was fine for practice. When he got in a game, you saw just how terrible he was. So to me, you're better off having a young guy that potentially has some upside. And I don't think he's got much leverage with the Titans in terms of forcing a move. And so I would move forward trying to keep Will Levis. The new staff, talk to him, say, hey, we need you to be Cam's backup this year. Do the very best job you can at it, and next year we'll try to get you into a situation where you have a thing going on. Also, people throwing around like you're going to get a second or a third for him. What has he done as the pick he was to increase his value? You're not going to get better than you did drafting him. You're going to get significantly worse. I mean, he didn't play well, and now his shoulder's an unknown. And he hasn't played since he's had the shoulder surgery. So I think people are really as they always do, overvaluing a Titan trade prospect. But you trade Will Levis and they create another need. And the Titans do not need to trade to create more holes on their roster. And this idea that there is a vast array of backup quarterbacks out there is very overblown. Love You Blue is right here. Why shouldn't the Titans groom him to be a backup with a real upside? And then maybe he's got more value next year, and you can get. I said Dontrell Hilliard, not the running back who played in New Orleans. I think this one played safety at UCLA, maybe. What else do we have? Also, on the Sweat not being a fit for Saleh, we don't know. Haynesworth did well under Schwartz in a 4-3. Yeah. Well, not all 4-3s are built the same. And I don't think Robert Saleh's 4-3 is Jim Schwartz's 4-3. And I think Haynesworth was a more mobile. Did you call Haynesworth a nose, or did you call him a defensive tackle? I thought he was more of a defensive tackle. Listen, I'm not talking out of school about Sweat. I talk to people. You guys can pump up Sweat all you want and think that he's going to be a huge piece of this defense. If there was a prop on it, is he going to be here or not? I would be taking the knot. Take that for what you will. Ed says, if you had to sacrifice not getting a top player at one position group this offseason, what would it be? Edge, wide receiver, or corner? Not getting a top player. Jeez. I mean, if they end up, Ed, without a top player at one of those three positions, they're really fucked. I'm going to say that outright. But I think you can put together a bunch of 1-year contracts for middling corners and 3rd round draft pick, 4th round draft picks. If you can get together a front that can rush and allow you numbers in the secondary, I think you got to have rushers, and I think you got to have a premier receiver or something better than you've had for Cam Ward to give him a top weapon. So I'd begrudgingly say corners and do it by committee. Focus is on this backup quarterback thing. Who's your backup quarterback? People are getting away with the chief of staff thing, administrative assistant, all the thing. Yeah, here's Jabari saying this, like Carmen Brasillo hire seems good. I hope Daboll doesn't take him with him when he leaves. Carmen Brasillo has a contract with the Titans. How can Daboll just take him? We just ignore contracts in a lot of these conversations. Is Carmen Brasillo going to be an offensive coordinator? No, I don't think so. It's not he's an offensive line coach. So he's going to be an offensive line coach. He's got at least a 2-year contract here. And who's to say like he's a day ball guy now. Maybe he's a day ball guy for life. Maybe he comes in and becomes a Saleh guy. Is trading out of 4 still a possibility? Why wouldn't it be? I mean, seems to make sense to me. I think you need one more for a league-wide view to contrast against the Titans to help fans have better standards. I don't know what that is. What do you get for Sweat if you trade him? I wouldn't just get rid of him for a 5th or below. You get what you get. The market dictates. You're not getting a 2nd. But look, if the guy doesn't fit your scheme and he doesn't fit your culture, and his name was being whispered about when they made the Brownlee move, and that was a culture move, it's going to be another Rand Carthon mistake for this franchise. It could be. Part of it being the work ethic stuff, and part of it being this scheme fit. If someone gives you the Will Anderson package for pick number 4 in the first round, you have to take that. Well, Shawnee, I don't know that most of us have memorized the Will Anderson package, so more context would be helpful. Yeah, Chig is not under contract. Ridley is under contract. I don't understand fans' incredible affection for Chig, who doesn't block well at all. Why can't the Titans aspire to go get a tight end who's more well-rounded, say Cade Otton? Ridley, I think they're undecided on. Yeah, I agree with this. Love you, Blue, because Hainsworth was more Jeff than Sweat. You keep him until his value goes up. How does his value go up if you're not going to play him much because he doesn't fit your system? Yes, it just is imaginary value growth. It's just really weird. Can we hear any of that guitar in the background? My kid's upstairs practicing. Mike McCoy lives. Now that the Bills are hiring John Fox. Experience making a comeback. Thanks, Callie. That really is weird about John Fox. I don't know. Has John Fox still been on TV? Is DK's upside a premier wide receiver? I don't think so. DK, I think his top upside is 2-ish. I would think more 3 and a very good return man. Yeah. I mean, I think here are the reasons for Daboll to not be a head coach automatically next year already. A third of the league just turned over head coach. How many jobs are coming open next year? I would think it's going to be a low number. I would think it's going to be 4, closer to 4. It's got to be a small number after the massive turnaround. So that's one thing. Another thing is, like, what's a reasonable jump to expect from Cam Ward in 1 year? I think, some of this could be ridiculous expectation. So I wouldn't go too far with that. Who knows? Maybe the Titans have this kind of year that Chicago had, that Jacksonville had, that New England had, and he becomes the hottest thing going, and that's good for the Titans. You get a good year out of Daboll, who really helps shape Cam, and then the quarterback coach or Stocker or somebody is in place to take over, has developed, and there you go. Am I aware of any teams or staffs that are implementing AI to any great extent at present? Do I think teams could gain advantage in using for those mundane tasks that you're speaking of prior? Well, I mean, you still have to feed stuff into AI. But I don't know. It's a question worth asking, probably. I don't know that teams are going to advertise what they're using it for. All right, here's the Will Anderson trade. He's taken at first round third pick in 2023 for 12 and 33 in that draft and a first and a third. And then, hold on. It's not the easiest to read. 12 and 33 in that draft and a first and a third in the next season. They gave up number 3 and the following year's fourth. So Houston, or no, whoever they traded with, gave up the third pick in the draft and the next year's fourth. And they got 12 and 33 in that draft and a first and a third in the next year's draft. I would do that in a second. But who's the Will Anderson that somebody's coming up to get? That's the question. Yeah, Howie, I think this is reading too much into it. This Saleh's positive comments regarding the current roster hint that he's not going to be itchy to add a player at 4. Every coach is itchy to add a good player at the top of the draft. I think you're reading way too much into that. Levis needs a full season for his value to go up, I would think. But then you got another pool of quarterbacks coming in. But, Levis needs to get some stuff on film, certainly preseason stuff on film. Does his slow progression fit Daboll's system? No. But Daboll's job is to help him learn faster progression. See how that works? That's different than teaching a guy not to be overweight, to work harder. Those are different characteristics. Look, I don't know that there's any talking to sweat people about sweat. You love sweat. You love a 38th pick who doesn't work as hard as he should, isn't nearly as effective at rushing the passer as you'd want the 38th pick in the draft to be. The 2-down player, to me, run stopper, very effective run stopper. To me, not good enough value for 38, not a fit in this defense. Sorry. It doesn't seem like a great draft. I mean, I think there's a lot of talent in this draft, but the high-end talent that you really want, not there. And, guys that you think about it for, Reese being converted, so you're not positive. Bain, short arms are a concern, super powerful guy, can't play as wide as 9, which you'd like. So there's a deficiency there. Bailey, not as strong against the run as you need. 4 seems a little high. Tate, is he a do everything wide receiver? Is he as fast as you'd want drafting a receiver at 4? I don't know. So, yeah, Sean says draft full of good players, and very few great players, at least by the metrics. Lots of questions at every pick. And, certainly, like if you said you could have any receiver, edge, or corner in this draft, it's very difficult to say who. And who comes in as a clear difference maker after a month. Very difficult to say who So how many wide receivers do the Titans need? I mean, I think they need a free agent and a draft pick. If there's a third one, that's fine. But some of it hinges on whether they bring Ridley back or not. And I think you can make a case for going either way there. DK, Io Manor, Oliver are definitely, in the mix on this team next year, I think. I think it'd be hard for Oliver not to be on this team. Very good special teamers. Very good special teamer. So I think those three are on the team. Who's on the team beyond that? For sure. I don't know. Throw a name at me, but I don't think anybody's a guarantee beyond that unless Ridley's kept. If Ridley's kept, you've got 4. So we'll see. Edley's Barbecue, best place to eat in town for the buck. Best bang for the buck. They've got locations all over Nashville and all around Middle Tennessee. You should go there for a business meeting, nice business lunch. You should take your family there for lunch over the weekend or for dinner one night this week. Give the cook a night off, or if you don't feel like going out, they've got a tremendous app. Download it on your phone. You put your zip code in there. They tell you if you're in range of one of their many restaurants. Odds are you are. They don't charge any kind of exorbitant delivery fee. This is not Grubhub. This is not DoorDash. This is not Uber Eats. The additional money for them to bring it to your house is minimal. They get there fast. The food is hot. It's just like eating at the restaurant. If you go to the restaurant, you get great portions. You get great service, family atmosphere. Games are on the TVs. The drinks are cold. It's a terrific place to eat. I get the burn ends or the avocado salad, but they've got every kind of barbecue you want. The wings are terrific too. Every kind of barbecue you want, the best version of it that you can find. I can't recommend it highly enough. I love eating there and hanging out. So download the app, get it delivered to your house, or stop by sometime soon. Edley's Barbecue, true family tradition. That's going to fill your belly, make you feel good, and you're going to have a good time. Check it out. Edley's Barbecue, all in and around Middle Tennessee. Will Newman, the founder. Family place, feels like a family place. You're going to love it. This draft, Michael says, I think Saleh will like Bain a lot. He opted for Solomon Thomas, similar build as Bain at 3 in 2017 over more twitchy edge rushers. Yeah. I mean, he might. I'd like Bain too. I wish he wasn't at 4, right? I'd be fine with Bain if Bain's the choice. I'd want to hear them talk about Bain, explain. Titans have a ton of run stoppers in Gray, Sweat, safeties, and Simmons. I'm definitely okay with them taking an edge whose main knock is the ability to play the run if it comes down to that. I mean, on the one hand, you're right, but what do Gray, Sweat, the safeties, and Simmons have in common? Play up the middle. You got to set the edge. And so, we're talking Bailey there. He's got to be able to keep that run inside, and he is not great at that. And I think it's a reasonable question. Will he ever be great at that? And you need it. You need it. Which position is more likely for number 4 pick, wide receiver or edge? Like generally speaking, not pertaining to this draft, edge. And I mean, a lot of teams that have, I think Braden Gall looked at like teams that have had back-to-back number 1 picks have generally gone quarterback and defensive front piece. So I think that's a common combination that if you have 2 very high picks in consecutive years, use one of them on a quarterback and use the other one on a pass rusher. Yeah, fair. Love you, Blue. We're talking edge / end. because this defense is, in fact, different. Do I think Wan'Dale Robinson really coming here, or a better chance to trade for a wide receiver? They're not trading for anybody. I mean, the wide receiver choices in free agency are Alec Pierce. And Alec Pierce, Spotrac has him predicts a contract of $20 million a year. I think that goes up. Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs, Jawan Jennings. I would like to see any of those guys. To me, Wan'Dale Robinson's the most limited. He's the most slotty, right? Michael Pittman could come free if the Colts make a big bid to keep Alec Pierce as an alternative to Pittman. I would like to see any of those guys on the Titans. I think Pierce would be the most impactful. He's the fastest, maybe the most big play guy, probably the most expensive, though Jawan Jennings has a big price tag on him on Spotrac as well. Any of those guys, Dobbs, Pittman, more possession types, less dynamic. I want dynamic. But all those guys help the Titans wide receiver room, don't we think? Would I consider trading a fourth or fifth for a reclamation project needs a payday wide receiver like Keon Coleman, Michael Wilson, Xavier Legette? Well, why do they need a payday if they're a reclamation project? I'm not paying any of those guys anything significant. Keon Coleman's going into his third year? Legette, still young? I don't know. I mean, I'd rather have my own guy. I don't know that I need any of those guys. I want to draft one of my own in the top 3 rounds, and I want one of these guys that I just listed. What else do we have? Rams are sneaky. They've got those 2 first rounders. Atlanta's pick is where? I don't know. I think getting those 2 picks for 4 might be a little pricey, but that would be great. John says, to be honest, Levis is very similar to Jackson Dart. He is in some ways. Do I think AI could benefit the Hall of Fame selection process? Perhaps it takes all the numbers, years, era, comparison, etc. It takes first pass to provide data to committee. The committee has plenty of data. We don't need help with data. I mean, look, they're positioned to have no numbers. How does that help you with an offensive lineman? In a pinch, do I drink a beer with Saleh's cousin or have a shot of tequila with Borgonzi's brother? It's a good question. I go with Dave Borgonzi because I know Borgonzi's personality, and I think his brother, as an older guy who's coached in the league for 8 years, is going to talk. I think Saleh's cousin, Young, would be exceptionally guarded. As a low-ranking guy, you shut up and keep your eyes on the floor. So I'll go Dave Borgonzi. What else? Take a couple more. We'll call it a weekend. How many corners should we realistically sign in free agency? Should the Titans realistically sign in free agency? I mean, what if you sign Jalen Watson and Alontae Taylor or Jamel Dean or Wright from Chicago? I'd take 2 of those 4. I wouldn't mind 2 of those 4. But there are a lot of young. There are a lot of prove it kind of deals that you could sign out there, right? And I think those are the kind of people that they're going to have to identify and take a crack at. And and Martin Emerson, Joshua Williams. I've seen names like that. Find some guys like that and see if you can get them cheap, 1 year, prove it, deals. And that's why earlier when I was asked if I could live without a lot of money spent or a lot of investment at edge or receiver or corner, I'm thinking of guys maybe like that. So I that's not my ideal scenario, but I think guys like that will be, could be, should be in the mix, and go from there. Kenneth Walker, 615, is saying can help Cam with play action. I think Hall going to be harder to get. I don't think Hall's going to be harder to get. I think Kenneth Walker is pretty damn good. Look, the running back pool is nice. There's some choices there. I think they should pull the plug on Pollard and shop that free agent market pretty hard. Love You Blue asks about Udo and Levin. Heard someone else say, I wish we knew who this someone else was that said Zeitler really wants to come back. Zeitler wasn't as bad as we thought. They could do worse at right guard. I think Udo is a big one. I mean, that was the best third tackle they've had in a good while. But you're gonna have to pay, and I'd pay for the third tackle for sure. I don't think it's gonna be hard to get Levin back. I think Levin did just fine, but he didn't draw the hardest section of the Titans schedule, and he's not an option to me to start, like to be the starter. He could start a couple of games for you, but he's not an alternative to Cushenberry. I would expect him back, but Brasillo's got to get in there and evaluate. Yeah, this Taylor's a UT guy, right? So some of you who are in love with Taylor are in love with Taylor for the wrong reasons. Algier, second tier to me. Second tier to me. What else we got? Take one or two more and then let's get about our business. I got some expenses that I've been waiting forever to do that I've got to get done. Who wants to come and do my expenses? Ridiculous that they're not done. I'm ashamed. Like some of these teams were ashamed of the NFLPA report cards. And so they went and did away with the report cards because they're wussies. With edge being such a big need, would I double up in the draft? I wouldn't hesitate to double up in the draft. It depends on what they do in free agency. If they get Owe or Payne or Draymond Jones or Mafe or Jalen Phillips, then, maybe it's less of a big need. But, all depends. Ideally, they do enough in free agency that the desperation level at all of these spots is down a touch. And if you can get the desperation level down a touch, that's big. You don't want to go into the draft overly desperate anywhere. It's going to be hard for the Titans because they have such big needs. And clearly they need strong, young, speed, talent at a lot of spots. And that's going to be the case when they get to the end of April. But they need to soften that need as much as they can with what they do in free agency with a lot of the guys that we've talked about here. And so hopefully they can do that. And that's the next thing that we'll be looking out for. I appreciate you guys coming. Sign up for paulkuharsky.com. If you're not a member, I'd love to have you. And then I'll send you a text about the next time we get together for one of these. I wish Twitter had tweeted. Twitter not tweeting is not what Twitter's supposed to do, and I'm supposed to call it X. Don't block the box, and be sure, please, to lock your lock.